get young people on board. For more, let's bring in Brilyn Hollyhand. He is the RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. Thank you so much for joining us this morning with about 2 weeks to go until Election Day. What is the plan to bring more young voters in?
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I appreciate you having me back. It's always an honor to be here. I will say that I was with President Trump last Tuesday evening in Atlanta, Georgia, and I talked to him directly. And I said, Mr. President, you were going to win the youth vote because you've done the work to win the youth vote. And he said, wow, is this really going to happen? And I said, it's absolutely going to happen because you've reached out to Gen Z where they are. That's online, through social media. About this time last year, I had a conversation backstage at a similar rally with President Trump. And I said, Mr. President, you've got to go where Gen Z is online, through social media, through TikTok, through Instagram. And he said, oh, they're telling me I'm doing social media too much. I need to back off from social media. I said, no, there's a difference between true social and TikTok. TikTok is where young people are. That's where Gen Z is. They're scrolling aimlessly through their For You page. If you get your message through them in a 30-second campaign ad, Gen Z will start listening to your policies and your message. Kamala Harris, since she's entered the race or been coronated as the DNC's nominee, she has had an all vibes, no policy campaign. Gen Z is seeing through this. That's why we're going to get out to vote. And to a point of what all of you were just saying in the segment before this, I want to make it clear that it's very obvious that there's been a vibe shift in this race, that President Trump is looking to win this election, looking to win states like Pennsylvania. But exactly what you just said, too big to rig, is so important. This is not something we need to overlook or get cocky or get complacent or get lazy and say, oh, because the polling say that we're going to win this, I'm going to sit at home and not cast my vote. I'm going to not take off work for 15 minutes to go vote. I'm not going to put that sign in my yard or door knock or campaign. We need to treat this like we are 20 points behind in this race, make it too big to rig if we're going to change the future of the country.
Brilyn, you've raised an interesting question for me. Is it more important in this campaign, particularly in attracting younger voters, to be online and to be involved in social media, or to bring in celebrities? We, of course, know Democrats have brought in the Taylor Swifts of the world, and they're banking on that really getting them some momentum, if you will, and support. In your mind, is it more important to be engaging with young people online and on social media? Does that pay better dividends in your mind?
It certainly does. And I think having, the conversion between viewers on social media to voters is a lot more evident than just having, these TikTokers or these singers, pop stars, come out and do the work for you to reach out to Gen Z. President Trump doesn't need a pop star to win over Gen Z voters. He's talking to Gen Z voters directly. And I think what we've seen with this whole Taylor Swift endorsement have been my peers' obsession with the history that Kamala Harris could make if she's elected. And for them today, I've got one message for them. Yes, Harris will make history on day one in office as the first female president. But on day two, after the election's all over, you're going to have to live under her policies, which will be far worse and far more radical than the past 4 years of what we've seen. I mean, Kamala Harris has ran this campaign of joy and vibes, but true joy is being able to fill up your gas tank, buy groceries for the weekend, and buy a home. And Gen Z can't do that. Gen Z can't even start a life under the Biden-Harris administration. We are frustrated and we won't change.
I thought it was so interesting, Brilyn, they brought out Lizzo, who I thought was retired last time I checked.
Me too.
You bring out a retired musician to drum up support for you. That sounds like desperate measures to me. But Brilyn, I want to get your thoughts on Delaware, where we could see the first trans woman becoming a member of Congress. Sarah McBride is leading her district by more than 20 points. The left has been pushing this agenda, and here, well, it comes to fruition. So, Brilyn, what do you make of this?
Not only have they been pushing this agenda on the left, they've been shoving it down my generation's throats through indoctrination into the classrooms and through stuff like this. The left wonders why they're not winning over youth voters in modern day America. It's because they are so incredibly radical. And this is a perfect example of that. This is not the America that my generation wants to grow up in. My generation has one simple goal, and it's to attain the American dream. And the American dream is unattainable under the Biden-Harris administration. It was attainable under the Donald Trump administration. We want that back. We could care less about stuff like this. Stuff like this is a distraction, and that's not what Gen Z cares about. We care about the economy. We care about the border. We care about not being able to walk on the streets, safely and securely. We want that back, and stuff like this is just the left trying to get radical again. This is not truly who Gen Z is at all.
Brilyn, so far, what has been most effective targeting the youth vote? And in these final days of the campaign, where do you think they need to go a little more heavy, push a little bit more?
Yeah, I think Pennsylvania is the state that's the swingiest of all swing states, where every pundit that you've ever heard in the past 2 years have said whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the White House. That's absolutely true. And as of today, I feel confident that Donald Trump has a shot at winning Pennsylvania. I think they need to focus more on Pennsylvania. Obviously, that's where he's been the past 3 days. He's doing a really good job. He was at a game last night, again, talking to young people in the stands. It's working really, really well. There are two methods to our Gen Z outreach. The first method is social media outreach. We've talked a lot about that. But the second outreach is what we're really calling this on-the-ground activism, grassroots activism. Stuff like that is where we're partnering with Charlie Kirk. We're talking to people directly. In the next week alone, I'm going to the campuses of LSU, UGA, Auburn, and UAH to talk directly to lecture halls full of college students who are voting for the first time, to look them in the eyes and say, this is why you need to take the 10 to 15 minutes to go vote. That's what's important. We've done the social media outreach. We're going to continue to do that. But the next 15 days, we need to look college students in the eye and tell them why they need to vote.
Absolutely.
You're not going to go to UT?
I would love to. Nobody's invited me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was a low blow, Brilyn, as you went to Alabama. I'm sorry, that was a low blow.
Remember, they took those out. They rushed the field.
There you go. Hey, just really quickly, you said something earlier that piqued my attention. You said that in talking to a number of your classmates, a number of your constituents or just fellow students, that one of the things that a lot of people are voting on is this potential of making history, electing the first woman president. How does the Trump campaign, in your mind, counteract that? How do they reframe the conversation to give voters an opportunity to vote to basically bring some sort of different history or make some sort of different change culturally?
We very simply lay out her failures as vice president. And why in the world would you give a job promotion to somebody who couldn't even do the junior position of that same job? Kamala Harris was a failed vice president, arguably one of the worst vice presidents in American history. And not arguably, it's a fact that she's the least popular vice president in American history. Why would you let her be president? Sure, did the vibe sound great on her campaign? Is there all this joy or all these hashtags or all these pop stars coming around? Absolutely. Does any of that translate to actual policies? No. When she sits down in interviews and people ask her a simple question, what is your policy on this? She can't answer it. She stutters, she blumbles, just like her boss, Joe Biden. She cannot answer simple questions. Donald Trump did 6 campaign events before I was with him Tuesday night in Atlanta. 6. The media is telling you that he's exhausted, that he's tired. I'm a senior in high school, and he had more energy than me when I saw him that night. It was about 9:30 at the time we met. Donald Trump is doing the hard work day in and day out to talk directly with Americans, to lay out his policies. He's done tough interviews. He did 2 press conferences yesterday alone. He did 4 campaign events yesterday alone. He's doing the hard work. I would vote for the guy that's out there trying to earn your vote, not sitting and just bringing in pop stars to do the work for him.
And here's the novelty, Brilyn. He's the first president to ever worked at a McDonald's.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Brilyn, you're doing amazing work, and I think it really is, at the end of the day, that human element and going person by person, getting those votes out there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Coming up,